The first banner I ever made, I was 14, and I went to the semi-final against Leicester at Old Trafford, the day Reds won the National, and it finished 0-0, and they played a replay on the Wednesday at Aston Villa, but I never went, and we sat out the back of our house and had this bed sheet, and I painted a banner, the letters LFC in straight lines, right? The C was a square with one side missing. Honest to God, that's the way it was. The L was another square with two sides missing. That's what you're doing, eh? And the F was a square with two sides missing and one of the sides put in the middle. That's true, that. Honest to God. I painted it once and got two banners out of it. One on the cloth and one on the pavement below it. Honestly, didn't put no paper under it or nothing like that. Pull the banner off the thing. That's true, the first banner I ever made, that, yeah. And then I made another one for, I took a Union Jack to Bruges 76, but it was massive. Took it to Wolves. It got us in at Wolves, played Wolves 76, it was chocker. And there was a school behind and an alleyway between the school and the wall. They wouldn't let no one in the grounds. They ended up, I didn't see it, but they ended up with the gates. They buckled the hinge on the gates, honest to God, dirty, great big 15-foot gates. I'll tell you, they buckled the hinge with the pressure that they put on the gates, honest to God. They couldn't knock it down because it was that strong, but the bottom hinge buckles and all kinds got in. That wasn't my thing. We were down the back, and we had this great big Union Jack, and one of the lads in the grounds got hold of the flag, him and his mates got hold of the flag at the top and threw it down to us, and we were on the fence the other side of the walkway, and he got hold of the flag, right, and he jumped across the gap and then climbed up the flag, and these fellas just sat on the top holding the flag, and that's how we got in the grounds, yeah. So I took that to Bruges the week after, and but it was a nuisance, you know, carrying it, you know what I mean. I swapped it for a bottle of vodka. It was only 17, yeah. Yeah, I always remember it, yeah. Bottle of vodka on the boat, yeah. I was glad to get rid of that because it was a Union Jack, you know what I mean. Liverpool across the middle. Yeah. So that was the next one. Then 81, I made a flag for Paris, and it said Allez le Rouge, and it was a banner, but I bought a flagpole and it was a metal one. And that was nonsense, you know, you couldn't take a metal pole, could you? It's about 6 foot high, just a live bird with Allez le Rouge written round it, yeah. Yeah, but then when, I remember making a flag after that until Hillsborough, and I took material. I worked for a community project. I was a play worker at adventure playgrounds and community centres and what have you. And the sort of, what they say, the umbrella organisation, you know, they used to collect stuff off factories and what have you, and recycle it to be used on play schemes. And they got this window dressing, loads of red and yellow stripes, and it was the cloth from window dressing of Lewis's in town, and I took 3 pieces of it. So as soon as I seen it, I went, oh, I'll tell you what, make a good banner that, yeah, I have what you want. So I took 3 pieces of it, thinking, you know, I'll cover half the grounds with this, like, nonsense. And I went to Rome 84, and they had a massive flag covered about half their ends, you know what I mean? It was enormous. Well, them days, the Italians were the top notch for the supporters, like, you know, things like that. And that's what inspired me. So I thought I was making something like that. As it happens, it would have looked like a pin badge on there, like, you know what I mean? And I was working on the scale drawing, to scale a drawing out, like, of this flag that was going to celebrate the club's centenary. And Hillsborough happens. And then I went down the grounds the day after. The gates weren't even open. There was 2 kids at the gate with the nana, and I knew them from work. One was a red, one was a blue. And anyway, goes to my mates, lives 7 doors from the Shankly Gate, Fred Brown, and he's a genuine artist, Fred. And And I said to him, listen, Fred, we're going to have to make a banner. He said, all right, yeah, well, you got the cloth and all that. So he goes into it. He was at this thing called arts development training. He was sort of like learning how to be a businessman and an artist, you know what I mean, how to be an artist as a businessman. And anyway, they said, yeah, I'll come down here. They had loads of empty offices. So we made the memorial. One of the names called Peter House. Well, that meant a lot, you know what I mean? Coincidence means a lot, doesn't it? Circumstances like that. So that's what we done. And on the Friday, we took the banner to the grounds and put it on the wall of the Anfield Road at the corner of the Kemlin Road. Used to be a big wall there. And when we put the banner up, honestly, it fitted within inches. It's meant to be, you know what I mean? And on the Monday, so this is like 9 days after, I went back for it. And I must have been the only person who went back for the tribute at the ground that week. But when I made it, I said, no, I lived, so the banner lives. You know what I mean? Because the way I looked at it was that this banner was of those who were in the pens. You know what I mean? It's coming from the pens. I was in there, I know what they went through, those who were killed. So it was right and proper that it should come out of the pens. That, you know, and that the banner should live, and the purpose was to keep alive the names in memory of those who were killed, because it has all the names on the trophies. And they played Arsenal 6 weeks later. I said, you know what, we've had the death, we're going to have the glory here. So the second piece, I put a big FA Cup one side and the big league trophy the other side of it. The live bird, there was a copy of the one on the original, on the memorial banner, and we stitched it to the bottom, so it was twice the size. It was 20 foot by 24 foot, and we took it to the Arsenal match because they got beat, didn't they? So what you do when you know, so what I done was I stitched it to the back, and I swore that I would keep track of what Liverpool won afterwards on the back. I never did, but that's the plan for the new one now. Yeah, so that's, and the third piece, a woman was on the radio. She was looking for a piece of memorabilia from the grounds that she could make a banner with, embroider a banner with. I said, yeah, I've got one here. I said, you can have this. So I took her up to her, and she made this banner. She phoned me, you know, a couple of weeks later. She said, yeah, I've finished your banner. I said, you finished my banner? She said, yeah, I've done it now. I didn't realise she was giving me it back, you know what I mean? And she'd stitched all the names, you know, like with wool, like embroiders all the names on a circular garden of roses, you know, what you put on like dresses, you know what I mean? She'd made a live bird in the middle, LFC, and then this garden of roses around it, and then the full names of everybody who was killed, except for Tony Bland, of course. And my banner was the names on the trophy, but mine was like a list of names. So Ian Glover was I Glover, you know what I mean? Whereas she'd put the full names on. So we took it and we call that the baby banner. Yeah, so that's what become of the 3 pieces of cloth. And then from there, I was off work a couple of years. I just wasn't fit for anything, you know. I couldn't function properly really, and but you know, I tried to redesign it, but I always felt like the scale was wrong, and the fact that it had a list of names, I wanted to put the Christian names on. Well, I found all my old records from that time a few months ago, and I was made up because I found paper that shows that I was talking about changing the names. I tried to do it in the instance is redo the banner with the names better, and with the Christian names on and better scale and what have you. And I found them a few months ago, and I was made up because it proved to me that what I was thinking of was at the time, you know. So, you know, I was nuts, but I was right to be nuts, you know what I mean? I was like, you know what I mean? It's something like that anyway, but it was appropriate. And anyway, I couldn't do it. I could only get so far and get so much done, and I found it hard to get on with the show. I said, no, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put this away and I'm going to come back to it in 20 years time. And that's what I've done. I come back to it 20 years later and I made the new memorial banner, which is the one that, you know, gets seen now. And that's got the Christian names on, and it's all different layers and textures. The idea is that it triggers all your senses. It has a couple of pockets in, so if it's going to be displayed, I ask people to put flowers in it, in the pockets. That's what I do, and that's to represent everybody who went to ground the week after, you know, taking the flowers. And it triggers the sense of smell. It's got all different textures on it. And we created a group called the Football Arts Initiative, and the mission was to explore and express the relationship between football, the arts and the community. We created a book called Words of Tribute. I'll show it, you know, which was poetry written at the time. So we put 96 poems together that was written at the time. On the front of the book and the back was a picture of my banner hanging over the Shankly gates, and you can see right through it, like. But that was our mission, to explore and express the relationship between football, the arts and community. And you know what? I'm still doing it now, 30 years later.